Imagine you are building a social media app and you want to fetch the user's information, the posts made by the user, and the comments in the posts. Okay. So now with REST, you need to call multiple APIs or multiple endpoints. For example, if you want to fetch the user's data, you need to call this particular API. If you want to fetch the posts of the user, okay, then you need to call another API. And for example, if you want to fetch the comments of a particular post, then you need to call another API. So with REST, you need to call multiple APIs, okay, to fetch uh, multiple data basically, or related data. Okay. Okay, and another problem with the REST APIs is overfetching and underfetching. So let's see, for example, this is the response of the user API. Okay, now what if the client or the UI, they wanted only name to be rendered? Okay, only name to be rendered. Okay, so now we are in the user API, right? In the user API response, we are getting multiple fields of the user, which is overfetching, wherein we wanted name only. Okay, and there's this example of underfetching as well. So we wanted with the user information, we wanted the post and the comment information as well. But this particular API returns only the user information. So this is underfetching as well. So for fetching post and comment, we need to call another APIs basically. Similarly, the example with post. So I was interested only in title, post title, and not the other fields, other post fields. Okay. Now this is another example of overfetching, and it does not, this particular API response does not have the comment information. So this is underfetching. Okay. Okay. So now what is the solution for this? So the solution is GraphQL, wherein you can, with GraphQL, you need to hit only one particular endpoint. Okay, and you'll get all the information, that is a user, post, and comment information. Okay, so with one endpoint, but you need to mention the query with that particular endpoint. So now let's see what is the query here. So with the query, what I'm saying is, I want user with ID 1. Okay, and in that particular user, I want only name field of the user. Okay, and I want post information as well. In the post, I want only title field and no other fields. Okay. I also want the comment information. Okay. Here I'm mentioning the two fields which I want, the text and the author. Okay. So in the query, in the GraphQL query, okay, you can mention the fields, the only fields you want. Okay. And you'll get only those fields. Okay. Okay, exactly those fields you'll get. So you can see the GraphQL response here. So I got the user and I got the name field. It's the name field only. And I also got the post information with the field I mentioned, the title. Okay. And I got the comment information as well with two fields which I mentioned in the query, the text and the author, the text and the author. Okay. So with GraphQL, you can mention the data which you exactly want. Okay. And you'll get only that data, only those data basically. Okay. Okay. Now, so with this, what is GraphQL? GraphQL is nothing but the query language for the API. So we just saw a query example wherein I can mention the fields, the data which I want. Okay, I can mention the data or the fields, the exact fields which I want. Okay, with GraphQL. Okay, and with GraphQL, as I said, usually you hit only the single endpoint. You don't have to hit multiple endpoints like in case of REST, right? You had to hit users, posts, and comments. With GraphQL, you hit only one endpoint, but with that particular endpoint, you need to pass on the query, the flexible query with the fields, with the exact fields, which what you want. Okay. So now let's go on to the next section, that is the schema and operations. So for in the GraphQL, you need to define a schema which is nothing but the contract between the front end, which is a client, and the back end. Okay, so now what is this schema or what is this contract? Let's see. So this contract or the schema, it has three sections basically. Okay, so the first section is query, which is generally the read part. Okay, the fetching part. So let's see through an example here. So here's a query section, right? So here you can mention, it's basically the get operations or the fetch operations. Okay, so here I can fetch the user by ID, or I can fetch all the users. This is what the schema says. I can fetch either all the users, or I can fetch the user by ID. Okay, so this is generally the read operations or the get operations. Okay, now let's see another section which is called the mutation section, which is generally the write operations. Okay, so the mutation, as the name suggests, you want to modify something, right? You can either add user, update the user, or delete the user. So this is what the server is exposing. Okay, you can add the user, update the user, or delete the user. Okay, so this is nothing but the write operations. And then there's another section called subscription, okay, for the real-time updates to the client. For example, what the client says, whenever the user is added, whenever a new user is added, okay, or updated or deleted, then notify back to the client, or send an event back to the client, so that the client can handle that particular event accordingly. Okay, so another out of the box feature of GraphQL is subscription, which is providing the real time updates back to the client. Okay, and this is generally done through the web sockets. Okay, so this is another out of the box feature, GraphQL feature. Okay, okay, and then there's this uh, the model of the user. Okay, so what fields the client can ask to the server to send. So there are, so these are the fields exposed: id, name, and email. And of course, from these fields itself, the client can ask for the data. Okay, out of these fields only the client can mention the fields he's interested in. Okay, so so this is a schema. As I said, this is a contract between the client. This is definitely in some way the contract is shared with the client. Okay, and through that particular contract or schema, through this particular contract or schema, the user can see, okay, what all operations are allowed and what are fields I am allowed to query. Okay, I am allowed to query. Okay, so this is what the schema is. Now this is generally defined, or this is generally defined at the server level, at the server level, and can be shared, and it is shared to the client as well in some form. Okay, now let's move on to the next section, which is called resolvers. So resolver is nothing but the business logic whenever the client query is sent by the client, right, to the server. So there's this business logic on the server side which maps the query, the fields in the query, with the data in the database. Okay, with the fields in the database. Okay, so generally this is the resolver is a business logic. Okay, okay, or the glue between the client query and the database where the data resides. Okay, now we'll quickly see our demo. Okay, now I am showing the demo in Spring Boot, but definitely this can be, I mean, you will understand the concept of GraphQL, okay, through this. Okay, so now this is what is a schema. Okay, this is what is a schema. Now it says that, okay, I'm only going to show the read operations, basically the fetch operations or the get operations. Okay, so here I am allowing two operations, which is to fetch user by id or to fetch all users. Okay, and in the user schema, I have three fields. Okay, one is the id of the user, another is a name, and the posts of that particular user. Now we have post object as well, wherein we are saying, so when we say this id, right, this id, this is a field name. Okay, this id is a field name. This is what it defines, that it is unique identifier or the primary key, you can say. And exclamation means that it will be non-null. Okay, it will be non-null. So there are three fields of the post. One is id, another is title, and the comments as well. Now this means that it is array of the object. Okay, now we have comment object as well, so wherein we say we have id, text, and author. So these are the this is the contract. Okay, and these are the fields which the user can query to fetch the fields data, basically. Okay, and these are the operations, the query operations, right? Okay, the get operations. So this is a schema. Okay, now let's quickly see the resolver. Okay, so this is a resolver. So in Spring Boot, I mean, in different languages, there'll be different ways of implementing the resolver. So in Spring Boot, we use @controller annotation. So this is user control is nothing but the resolver, basically. Okay, as I said, this is the like bridge between the client query and the database. So now, just for demo purpose, I am like defining the data, right? Define the data in on the class level itself, in the memory itself. Okay, in the memory itself. And these are the query operations, the read operations, basically. So one for the fetch user by id. Okay, this is fetch user by id, and this is to fetch all the users. Okay, but these are the internal functions. Okay, these are the not the not the exposed endpoint. So as I said, in GraphQL, only one endpoint is exposed, which is slash GraphQL. So we'll see to the demo. Okay. Now let's go on to the demo. Uh, just so let me start the server application. So let me run. Okay, so the server started on localhost port 8080. Okay, now let's go on to the client. So I'm using Altair as a client. Okay, so it is nothing but the GraphQL client. Okay, so here is an endpoint. As I said, only one endpoint, which is GraphQL. Okay, and here is a query. Here is basically a query. So I'll demo two queries. Okay, so one is to fetch all the users. Okay, to fetch all the users. So here I'm saying users basically. So if you go on to the schema, right? So users. So this is uh, one of the query for fetching all the users. So I'm using that users, and I want only the username, and I want posts, and inside the post I want only title. So let me now hit this particular endpoint. What happened? Why it is stuck? Yeah. So we got the information. If you see, we have got all the users basically. Okay, Ajinkya and Rahul. Okay. Now, if I want, for example, now I want with the user name, I want ID as well for the user. Okay. So and if you see, there's no ID here in the user, and in the post, I want the post ID as well, just for demonstration purpose. So I mention here. Okay. Now let me hit the uh, endpoint again. So if you see, I fetched the ID as well, the user ID and the post ID. So if you see, so whatever fields I want, I just need to mention the query. Of course, the field need to be supported. Okay, and I'll get all those fields only. So no overfetching and no underfetching. In one endpoint, I'm getting the users, post and comments as well. Okay. So now let me comment this and let me demo. Okay. So now this particular query, it says, get me user with ID 1. Okay, I want the ID and name of the user. I want title of the post. Okay, all the posts, and I want comment section as well. Okay, the comments as well. So in the earlier uh, we didn't ask for comments. Okay, but in this particular query we are asking for the comments. So let me send the request. So here if you see, I got that particular user only. Okay, and no other user. I got that particular user. Okay, and I got title, post as well, and along with the post I got the comments as well. Okay. Okay, and whatever comments, whatever fields I had mentioned, text and author, I got only those fields for the comments. Okay, so this is the demo. I hope you have got the demo, and I hope you have got the what GraphQL is. So let's recap and close this particular session. Okay. So as I said, REST has many endpoints. Just to recap, okay, has many endpoints, and GraphQL has only one endpoint. And with the query, you can mention whatever data you want. Okay. REST overfetches or underfetches. Okay. We have seen this, right? We have seen this, and GraphQL gives exactly what you want. Okay. And subscriptions bring the real power. So we saw with subscription, you can the client can ask the server, okay, that is after a particular operation, that is if the user is added or post is added or comment is added, then notify me, then send me an event. Okay, so this is the real power of GraphQL, another added advantage I would say. Okay, so this is it. I hope you have got what GraphQL is. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.